Do it again. I'm busy. Hello. Let me take this off, actually. It is the first day of March. I have a reading vlog planned for this month. It has a theme. This is March Madness, okay? So all of the books I'm going to read are going to have characters that play basketball, but specifically women and girls who play basketball. I don't think I've talked about this on here before, but I play basketball for like 8 years up until I quit my 11th grade year for a variety of reasons. But then like actually my 11th and 12th grade year, I helped coach our JV. So I love basketball. It is my favorite sport. I miss it truly every day. And I hate that women's basketball and just women's sports in general don't get the respect that they deserve. So I'm just going to go through my TBR. First, I have volumes 2 and 3 of the Avant-Gardes. This is a comic. I read volume 1 last year. It's about a group of college students who put together, they go to an art school, and so they like didn't have a basketball team until they put together this rec team. The first volume is all about them really creating the team, and there's great representation. They're just really, the first one I thought was so cute. I really loved it, so I'm really excited to read the rest of these. And then I have a graphic novel that's called A Map to the Sun by Sloan Leong. These two girls used to be friends until one of them moved away. And then it was like radio silence. And so the one that was left behind is hurt until they come back together. The one moves back, and then they're on the same basketball team. First of all, can you see? I'm obsessed. And then I also got In the Swish by Dawn Green. She is like the star in her basketball team. She led them to regional championship. But her senior year, she has to switch schools, and I think she goes to her rival school. And so then she has to join their basketball team. And, you know, it's a bit rough. But then in the playoff game, she has to play against her old team. Sounds dramatic. So those are the physical books I have. And then I have a few that I got on Libby. The first one is All the Things We Never Knew by Liara Tamani. This is about two high schoolers who are both respective stars on their basketball teams. And basketball is really what brings them together, and they have a romance, but apparently they each have their secrets, as do their families. And then I also got the audiobook for The Falconer by Dana Chapnick. This is set in 1993. 17-year-old Lucy Adler, pretty much the only girl who ever shows up on the public basketball courts. She's really, she's just like struggling with herself and who she wants to be, who she is, what she wants. And then she is brought, I guess, kind of under the wing of two provocative feminist artists living in what remains of New York's Bohemia. And the last one is The Necessary Hunger by Nina Revor. And this is about two high school girls growing up in the inner city, one Japanese American, the other African American, hunger for basketball stardom and a life beyond South Central Los Angeles. So I will check in with you guys likely after I start the first book. I started listening to the audiobook of The Falconer. I'm like a third of the way into it, I think. And I don't think I like it. So basketball really has had very little to actually do with it, other than the fact that it's just like used as a personality trait of the main character. Our character is white, and like she's just like sad she's white, where she is like lusting after these better female characteristics, but really it's always just like her lusting after the characteristics of like women of color. And I'm like, this isn't sitting well with me. And, like, how she's mad that she's white and isn't taken seriously. Because she's white. I don't know. The vibes are off. And it's making me like, it's a rough start. It's a rough start to these books. But I still have high hopes for the other ones. Hello, it is Tuesday. Yeah. I just finished listening to The Falconer. I did not like it. I gave it 2 stars. It was just this teenage girl complaining about life, and like that was it. And that was not enjoyable. And then there was like this weird where she had like growth at the end of the book, but I was like, how did she even get there? It was almost like a weird time jump happened, and like suddenly I couldn't tell you really what purpose the like artist that she meets served. My favorite parts of the book were when she was like describing how she felt playing basketball. Hello, it is later in the week. It is now Thursday, March 11th. I wanted to update because I read volume 2 of the Avant-Gardes. I just like adore, I think that's a really good word for this comic series. I really love the characters. I love the like all around diversity in it, the casual queerness in it. I will say this one I did not enjoy as much as I like the first one. The first one that I read last year I gave 4 stars. This I gave 3.5, but the art continues to be my favorite part. Like I am just so obsessed, and I really enjoyed that we got to see some more perspectives in this one than we did in the last one, and I think that will continue in the third one. And there were parts in here that I really enjoyed. So like they're in practice and they're like running killers and I was like, they were running killers and then they had to shoot free throws and then they had to run more killers, and that just took me back. Being in practice and like a slight variation where it was like you had to shoot your free throw, everyone on the team had to shoot their free throw or 2, and if you missed everybody was running. I also wanted to show, so they have like alternative pre-order covers for the issues or the chapters are so gorgeous. Like look at this. This would be the regular cover and this was the pre-order cover. That is gorgeous. I want that as a poster. I am just obsessed with them, and I'm probably going to read the 3rd volume tonight. I'm pissed because I just recorded a full clip and then my phone did something weird and didn't save it, so. Last night I read the Avant-Gardes, the 3rd and final volume, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I think this is my favorite out of the 3. There was one part that I wanted to talk about. One of our main characters, Charlie, earlier in the book, she goes back to her dorm room and her roommate and her roommate's friends are in there singing the Schuyler Sisters from Hamilton, and so she just like walks right back out, and I was like, I see you, Charlie. And then later she's upset by something and she's trying to think of like a safe place she can go, and she's like, because she feels like she's about to have a panic attack, she says, you can't go back to your dorm room. Amber is her roommate, is butchering your favorite musical. And I was like, okay. I had my Hamilton phase in 2016, so I'm just like kind of over it. So I was like, okay, cringe. But then she says, well, no, In the Heights is your favorite musical. And that, my people, is taste. In the Heights is the best musical. It's my favorite musical, and it's the best. I mean, then it's the best musical like I have ever listened to. And I once watched a bootleg. God, I cried so hard. It is such a good musical. So I really enjoyed this, and I'm glad I read them, and I'm glad that I got into like comics and graphic novels, because it opened me up to a bunch of stories that I wouldn't have read otherwise, and like had they been written in a traditional novel format, like it just would not have worked. Like the art really just brings these kinds of stories to life. And then I also wanted to tell you that I started the audiobook for The Necessary Hunger by Nina Rivera. This is about, because I'm sure my synopsis for the beginning of this video is trash. An Asian American teen named Nancy living in LA, and she is really good at basketball. She's like one of the top players in the city. And then there's another girl named Raina who is African American, and she is also a top player in the city, and Nancy has a really big crush on her. Then through a series of events, Nancy's father asks Raina's mother out, and their relationship continues to grow more serious, and eventually Raina and her mother move in with Nancy and her father. Nancy and her father live in Englewood, which this is also set in the 1980s, so that's clear, is like a traditionally black neighborhood, so Nancy and her father already kind of get side eyes for living there and being Asian. But then when Raina and her mother move in, they get like even more weird looks because it's an Asian and a black interracial couple. The conversations about race and also about sexuality are really interesting, and like there's so much nuance to the conversation. I'm really enjoying it. This is like a basketball book, but I'm also enjoying it because it's not reading like a novel, it reads like a memoir. I think I'm about like a third of the way through, and I'm excited to keep listening and see how the story goes.
I look like shit because I feel like shit. I've got like a weird head cold thing going on, but I finished listening to The Necessary Hunger, and I gave it 5 stars. Like, that book is a love letter to basketball. It made me miss basketball so much, like playing on a team and like the thrill of close games and like winning a close game with the last shot. There were times where like I literally, like, describing gameplay, like I got goosebumps and like I literally started crying. Like, I really think if you love basketball, like, you will love that book. The sense of, I guess, like, community in, like, the neighborhood they were in LA as a whole, the community of basketball, the LGBTQ community, how those, like, overlapped, and it was just really good. And I'm scared that like the other books I have aren't going to live up to that one. The thought of like physically reading a book is incredibly daunting and exhausting to me right now. Literally just before I started filming this clip, got a notification that Chlorine Sky by, I think, Mahogany Brown, hold for that audiobook came up. I don't think I included this on my original like TBR that I told you about, but I'm pretty sure the main character plays basketball because I overheard my mom listening to the audiobook a couple weeks ago, and like I remember like a basketball thing. I'll probably listen to that today. It's only like a couple hours long, so it's been maybe 5 days since I updated you. I think the last time I updated you, I said I was starting All the Things We Never Knew. I am not far into that at all. I read maybe like 20-30 pages that day. I did, however, listen to the audiobook of Chlorine Sky by Mahogany L. Brown, and I enjoyed it. I listened to it while I was working, and I'm not gonna lie, I like checked out a few times, but I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, and honestly, like I think if I had paid more attention, and maybe if I have the opportunity to read it physically, it might bump up to a 5-star. It's about this young girl who really loves basketball, and she has this best friend who is really not that great of a best friend, but a lot of her identity comes from being friends with her. They kind of go through a friendship breakup, and she's dealing a lot with that in other parts of her life, and basketball is kind of what grounds her. Hopefully I can get some reading done this weekend. I also got book mail, and I got At Your Age, Eve Brown, which I really want to read. But the thought of physically reading anything is incredibly daunting and makes me not want to read. Anyway, that's what's going on. I just wanted to give you that update. Yes, I'm wearing a poncho. Guess who's here to rant? So the March Madness tournament has started, and these pictures have come out about the differences between the resources and really the gifts that have been given to the women's basketball teams participating in March Madness versus the men's basketball teams. When I tell you this makes my skin crawl and just like truly infuriates me, because
it is part of the what I will call the systemic issue of not taking women in sports seriously, treating it as a joke or as just something cute and fun when these women are here competing for the same exact thing the men's are. So when you give the men a weight room like this and then the women one pyramid of barbells and sanitized yoga mats, and that's it. Women and women's sports are so valid and are so important. They were one of the things that built my confidence, made me feel a part of something. Girls are worth investing in. Period. Girls' sports are worth investing in. And when girls who, even if they're in a sport right now, when they see shit like this, that makes them want to play less because they see that people don't take them more seriously as they get older. It's just the same old shit. And that's why, like, reading books like this, like, first of all, like, do you know, like, how I had to dig to find 6 books that included women playing basketball? I have really lost my train of thought because, like, I'm just boiling. But in conclusion, representation matters. Take girls seriously. Take women's sports seriously. Don't even come at me with I've already seen on Twitter, like, all the people like, well, the men's tournament brings in a profit. Let's talk about how they're literally exploiting those players, those students. They're also exploiting the girls. But, like, maybe if they didn't treat women's sports as a joke, it would turn a profit. You know, like, maybe, I don't know. It's bullshit. And this kind of stuff starts at the very beginning and continues throughout, even obviously into the WNBA. I finally read something again. Thank you. First, I'll say, I think I'm just going to give up on all the things we never knew. One, my library hold expires today, and I just genuinely don't feel a desire to read it at all. I don't really want to call it like a DNF because, like, I barely even started reading it. I think I'm gonna abandon it. So with that, I decided to start A Map to the Sun. I'm enjoying it so far. So we are following Ren, and one summer she meets a girl named Luna, and they become friends over the summer, but then Luna leaves really abruptly and, like, kind of cuts Ren out from her life. Flash forward a few years later, Luna moves back to, I believe it's in LA, and goes to the same school that Ren is currently going to. Luna kind of inserts herself back in Ren's life. We're meeting Ren's other friends. Their school is really under-resourced and underfunded. They don't have any female, like, girl sports teams. So one of the teachers kind of steps up and starts a girls basketball team. There's very little interest, but Ren and her friends are the one who are joining it. I flipped out about all the colors, I think, when I, like, first showed you this book, and I'm still obsessed. The art is so beautiful. Like, this might be the most beautiful art I have seen in a graphic novel, and just, like, the use of color, the shift in colors, like, marks the closing of a scene where, like, then we're jumping forward in time, however much time that is. It is just genius. The cast is so diverse, like, in so many ways. I'm a big fan so far. If I'm lucky, I'll probably finish this today. That's my update. That's where I'm at. I'll let you know when I finish this. Okay, so I haven't finished it yet. I think I'm just over halfway maybe. But something I wanted to talk about that I'm really appreciating in this book is one of the characters is fat, and, like, she's on the basketball team. People give her shit about her body and her shape, like, being in shape, not being in shape. She comes home and she's, like, telling her family, like, how she joined the basketball team and how she's feeling pride for, like, all of these things that she's now able to do that she wasn't able to do before. She talks about, you know, I run a mile, like, several days a week. I can do 30 push-ups easy. And they just continue to poke fun at her. And same with the other people at school. Like,
the scene that made me like want to film this is like they're running outside conditioning, and like some boys walk by and make like a dumbass comment. I'm just really grateful to see that representation in this book, because I think about how when I was younger, where I won't say that I was fat then, I definitely thought I was, but like I wasn't, but like I had a bigger body than other people on my team. It was harder for me to get in shape than it was for the rest of my team. I was just like naturally not as fast, and I would get winded, I would get tired more easily than other people. And while I don't remember ever like being actually like teased and bullied for that, it was more like passive aggressive remarks. Like one of my coaches gave me the nickname Lazy, like because of all of that. And like I really embraced it. I was like, haha, it's funny. Like I had it printed on one of the backs of my like shirts for an AAU team. Like reflecting on it now, it's just like how fat phobic that was, and how much of a stereotype of bigger people that is. And like it wasn't reflective. Like I was one of the people who worked the hardest, and like same with Nell, who is our character here. Like she is putting in the work and she's taking it seriously, but people just continue to make fun of her for her size. So anyway, I'm just like, again, grateful to see this representation, and it's giving me the opportunity to like reflect on things that have happened in my life. And I think having that plus sized rep in a sports book is really important, especially with girls. Like bigger girls think that they can't play because they don't have, and like any sport, because they don't have the athletic body, and that's not true. I finished A Map to the Sun. I think I want to give it 5 stars. I love the art, I love the colors, I love the story, I love the characters, and I'm really glad that I decided to read this, because I think it got me out of my slump. My hair looks like a block today. This is embarrassing. I want to give some content warnings for this. There is self-harm, specifically images of self-harm, a teacher-student relationship. A male teacher takes advantage of one of the girls who is a teenager. I forgot to talk about how one of the biggest parts of A Map to the Sun is the fact that people don't take women's sports seriously, and they don't see girls' sports as something to invest in. They don't see girls, they don't see women as some people worth investing in. Which, brings it all full circle back to my rants about March Madness. And so that was one of the things I really liked about it as well. So now I have one book left on my TBR, and that is In the Swish by Dawn Green. And honestly, I'll probably just like start it right now to just try and keep the ball rolling, if you will. I'm like 70 something pages into In the Swish. I was hoping it wouldn't be this way. I had a feeling it might be, but I was hoping it wouldn't. But it's really written like it was written in the early 2000s, aka not good. And I checked to see when it was written, and it was written in 2016, so not that long ago. One of the things that is like the most upsetting to me was there's a side character, we haven't seen very much of her yet, but a side character who has autism. And when our main character first meets this character, I think her name is Maddie, before she like knows that Maddie has autism, she's like, oh, of course it's only the social outcast who talks to me. She's like looking at me, but her eyes are like shifted off to the right, like of course again it's like the social outcast. So this is when I checked to see when this book was written because I was like, not that like that being written in the past is an excuse, but it would just like make more sense to me why that was written. But in 2016, it was just like not good. The character tells her she has autism,
And like our main character's like, oh, in my head, like I feel bad about all the social outcasting. So I'm like, yeah, it was pretty obvious that she had autism before she even told you, and you were calling her weird and all this stuff, and how she made you uncomfortable. So congratulations, you exposed yourself. I do know how the book ends because I read the Q&A with the author at the back of the book, and one of the questions was about the ending. I was like, God damn it. It's March 30th, and the time has come to wrap this vlog up. I did finish In the Swish a few days ago. Honestly, it just got worse. I like really went to DNF it after I read a certain paragraph, which I will be reading to you. Like I literally took my bookmark out and like threw it to the other side of the table, and I was like, I'm not reading this book anymore. But then I went and read the Goodreads reviews, and like this book has like a 4.4 star rating. All of the reviews, I mean there aren't very many, but like it talked about how good this was and how good the writing was, and how the character development, and I was like, surely I'm missing something. Surely this has to get better. And did it? After I was going to DNF it and then picked it back up, I skimmed. I read like 3 pages at a time. Where did you begin about this? Let me read you the paragraph that made me want to DNF this book. Mind you, our main character is this white girl, okay? Tisha is like her arch rival, and she is black. I'm not sure what I expected Tisha's house to look like. She was rough around the edges, played a bit like a street baller, and, parentheses, yes, and parentheses, black. So, as racist as it sounds, I thought she lived in some kind of project. And it continues, I blame my ignorance on watching one too many basketball movies. What the fuck? Who let a paragraph like that into a published book? I would like to have a word. Oh my god. And then another character on Bennett, our white main character, her new team, one of them is also Mexican. She sees her walking home one night carrying 3 bags of this like trash recyclable stuff. So she ends up giving her a ride. She goes to the grocery store to return and like get money to then buy groceries, and then Bennett drives her home. This 2-bedroom house with, I don't remember her name, but like our side character and her abuela and her 2 parents and her 5 siblings. Just the stereotypes. Bennett has a white savior moment where they help her family out for Christmas and like buy them all these gifts. And just like the way it was done, I mean, like I said, it was just like a white savior moment. It was not okay. And then in one of the basketball games, the Latinx girl on the team, and one of the other teams they're playing, they have like an Asian player. And I guess the author decided that because they were both characters of color, that they could both call each other racist names. Let me pull up this author picture here. She's white. It was not good. I ended up giving it 2 stars. What I did enjoy about this were like the basketball games, how they were described and everything. Lots of basketball jargon. Good stuff. This is not a good book. So to wrap this up, I'm going to go through all of the books that I did read and what my rating was. So I read like 30 pages and All the Things We Never Knew, decided it wasn't for me. So that's technically a DNF. And we obviously have In the Swish, gave that 2 stars. Oh, I read The Falconer. I think I gave that 2 stars as well, which now that I'm thinking about it makes me want to give this 1 star. I also read Chlorine Sky. I gave that 4 out of 5 stars, and I think it could be a potential 5 star if I reread it and actually focus on it. I also read volumes 2 and 3 in the Avant-Gardes series. I gave these, what did I give these? I think I gave them both 4 stars, question mark. Definitely suggest these if you are trying to get into comics or graphic novels and you also like sports. These are really great. And then I do have 2 new like favorite books out of this, which is always a pleasant surprise. So one of those is The Necessary Hunger. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. A love letter to basketball. I love it so much. I'm going to buy myself a physical copy. Also, the graphic novel A Map to the Sun. Again, gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Loved the colors, loved the art, loved the story. Big fan. And that'll do it. Thanks for coming along on this journey with me. Hopefully you will see this not too long after March. I have a feeling it will be very long after March. Girls are worth investing in. Girls sports are worth taking seriously. I watched the Baylor UConn Elite 8 game in the women's NCAA tournament last night, and it was one of the best games that I've watched this month. Stop underrating girls and girls in sports. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And with that, I will go. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're doing well. And I will see you sometime soon. Likely, my next video will be a Rule of Wolves reading vlog because that comes out today. Keep an eye out for that. All right, bye.